Hey, what's up, guys? Christian Van Buren here. I am the co-founder of Ripple Effect Fatherhood. So I'm very, very, very excited for this next guest that we have on. He is the CEO and founder of Heroes Media Group, and I'm just gonna let you guys go ahead and check them out online at www.heroesmediagroup.com. Outstanding organization, outstanding mission, and really just out here to help as many people as possible. I hope you guys get a lot from this interview. I hope you enjoy the authenticity in Adam's answers and just the way he talks about his experience of fatherhood. He gives a lot of great information on just his experience as a single father. At the very least, I hope you guys share this content. Because remember, you never know whose life you can impact by just pressing the share button. You never know who may be needing to hear something, who may be going through something as a father, and maybe on that teetering block of, do I stay or do I leave, by just pressing the share button. So I just ask that at the very least, press that share button and bless somebody today. I love you guys and I thank you for the support. I hope you enjoy this interview. Make sure to press subscribe. Follow us on our podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, and all the above. All right. You guys enjoy this one. Thanks. All right, Adam. So again, thank you for making time to be on here. I had the chance to read your bio. I'm very interested in learning more about you, but even more, I'm interested in learning about your experience as a father, and I'm excited for our audience to kind of to get some insight into what it's like to approach fatherhood from your shoes, and then just to learn about what you've done, over time. So again, I'm really excited to be on here, but if you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself to the people.
Thank you. My name is Adam Bird, founder of Heroes Media Group, HMG Beverage, and a slew of other things. I was a single father for 15 years and Army veteran as well. And yeah, man, I'm kind of an open book. Let's do this.
Awesome, man. Well, first off, thanks for your service. That definitely means a lot to us here. A lot of people that watch our channel, there are a lot of ex-military, current military, and just a lot of military supporters. So thanks for your service. How long did you serve?
9 years.
Thank you, sir. That definitely means a lot to us here. And so you said, just to kind of get into just a little bit about what you do. You said you are the CEO and founder of Heroes Media Group, right? What is that?
Heroes Media Group, started it off in 2015 as a podcast platform where I was just recruiting podcasts, and people would contact me that wanted to start a podcast. I'd been doing it for a while. I had a business prior to that for about 4 years where we had created the first, or one of the first, all veteran podcast networks in the world. And that was back in like 2012, end of 2012 timeframe. And in 2015, we shut that down. I made the transition and created what is now known as Heroes Media Group. And I wanted to open that up to community heroes as well. So military veterans will always do that for obvious reasons, but we wanted to open it up for like firefighters, first responders, educators, and then we added a clergy piece in there as well. So it started off as just helping people start their podcasts, and then we got into full-blown editing, and so now we can do anything that you have to do with a podcast, whether it's how to monetize a podcast, start a podcast, you need help with editing, transcription service. We have all of that at Heroes Media Group, and then we have a hosting platform there as well. And then about 2017, people started asking me like, hey, I need help with this audiobook. Can you record it for us? So we have done about a dozen audiobooks over the last 5 years.
Wow.
Now as well. So we created that publishing arm. So we got a kind of a slew of things there at Heroes Media Group.
Dude, that is amazing. Man, I will definitely be diving into I've already visited the website and checked it out, but I will be definitely diving into that, especially just, at the very least for what we do here. So, man, that's awesome. That's awesome. And then, I know you mentioned you were a single father. So you're father of one?
Just the one. Just
Okay.
the one. He's getting ready to turn 20.
Nice.
But I had gotten out of the military, and I got back from a deployment, and I took full custody of my son, and it didn't work out between me and his mother. We got a divorce. I ended up with custody, and was doing the military thing for a couple of years as a single parent, and then got into corporate America and did that. And then it was around the time that he was getting ready to go into junior high, and start playing sports. And kids, as they grow up, they get into more extracurricular activities and stuff. And I got to the point where I was missing out on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Had to make money to keep a roof over head and food and stuff like that, but I felt like I was paying somebody else to raise my kid, and it didn't sit well with me. So I made the decision to quit my corporate job. And let me put it to you this way. What I'm about to say, I do not recommend people do.
Okay.
Quit my job, no money in the bank, woke up the next day and I'm like, oh, yeah. So this whole like own your own business, start a business kind of thing, that just went like full force. Now failure isn't an option. A whole bunch of pressure, unnecessary pressure, quite frankly, but it ended up working out.
Okay.
And I tell people, my son, I've said this in other shows, saved my life. He gave me a purpose to keep moving forward. And I think being a parent is the greatest gift and the greatest job that anyone could ever be blessed to have.
Man, I'm glad you kind of summed that answer up with that, because I mean, really all we do here, all we aim to do is to create a movement that promotes, inspires, and encourages the positive presence of fatherhood in the lives of everyone. And when I say everyone, I mean globally. Just the fact that through that big risk that you took, and where you are now, I mean, you still look at parenting as one of the greatest gifts of all.
Absolutely. That's never going to change.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate enough to have been, God's blessed me to do a lot of cool things in my life, but nothing has been cooler than being a parent. It's also the hardest job. It's the most rewarding job that you'll ever have, but it's also the hardest job that you'll ever have. And it was hard because as a single parent, that it came out of the military. I was a combat veteran. I came out of the military. I didn't really have anybody helping out at the time when he was younger. And it was, you just have to figure things out on your own. And there's no book about, you got all these parenting books. They give you ideas, but it doesn't help for people that can't read or don't read or anything like that. So for me, it was kind of like fall on your face and see, and then dealing with my own issues that I had, whether it was military or growing up or whatever the case was. I hid all of that. I pushed all that back in the back of my mind. My son gave me a purpose where it was like, I can't fail and I can't worry about me. I have to be strong because somebody else is relying on me to get fed, to keep fed, to make sure that they go to school, to do their homework, teach them right from wrong. And I had saw so many people and friends that I had knew that their fathers weren't in the picture. And in my experience, I didn't know my biological father. I was, my adopted dad wasn't around much. My stepdad was great. To me, he's Pop. Even to this day, we have a great relationship. And it was, I'm not going to do that to my kid.
Right.
That was my sole purpose in life at that time. Now, here's the trick. Kids get older.
Yep.
As they get older, you probably remember being a young man yourself. You give your parents a little pushback on things and whatnot. You get into high school, all of a sudden you know everything.
Yep.
All of a sudden you know everything. I was fortunate enough. I had to make a decision when my son was getting ready to go into high school. We were living about 2 hours away from any family that I had. My parents lived about 2 hours away, and my son got accepted into a private school, and it was only by the grace of God that happened. And I had to make a decision. Do I let him go to a public school up where we lived, which wasn't that great? The schools weren't that great. Or do I move him in with my parents and let him have more opportunities than I had at his age? And that's part of our job as parents, right? Is to give our kids better opportunities than what we had at that age.
Right.
And for somebody that was really dependent on raising a kid and having him there, it was hard for me personally as a father to let him move in with my parents freshman year of high school, because then I didn't get to see him every time. I had to stay where I was, still at the house, bills, you know how that stuff goes.
Yep.
So it was difficult. And that's where, to date, I said the best decision that I've made as a parent thus far is giving him that opportunity. Plus he got to know his grandparents very well, and stuff like that. But that's what life's all about. As parents, we have to make those hard decisions. We want to provide and give our kids a better life. And I say, if I've done anything right in life at all, if I've gotten anything right, I can say that I at least, I got one thing right, and that's my boy.
That's, man, that's amazing. And honestly, I think that what you just kind of spoke about, as far as, kids getting older and having to make those decisions, it speaks to the fact, and this is something that I've said on our channel, I posted on our social media pages, fatherhood, it takes a daily decision. Like, this isn't just all right, I'm a dad now, and it's a daily decision that you have to make, that I'm gonna do my best. This is what I always say when I post on our social medias. I'm gonna do my best to be the best father that I can be, right? And I'm gonna make the daily decision to do so.
Yeah. And let me clarify something here, because I know this gets lost in translation, and I was criticized for many years that I allowed my son to move in with my parents. I wasn't there 24/7 physically,
Mm-hmm.
but we all now carry these pocket computers is what I like to call them.
Yep.
Face technology is great. In the last 7 years, I've missed 5 days with my son, and those 5 days have been when he was in college. So his entire time that he was in high school, if I wasn't down there, I was talking to him every night. How'd your day go? What do we need to do? What's your homework? Do this, and the decisions were made. It was kind of like that cliche, the buck stops here. I was still the one making the decisions. My parents were overseeing those decisions, and they worked with me on that. And of course, there were certain rules we had to abide by and whatnot. But that's where it takes a village to raise a young man. That's where we really became blessed that we had that opportunity to do that. But that's still the case. My son's a sophomore in college. Right now, he goes to in a completely another state. He's opened up many doors for himself, and I'm very proud of him. But even in the last year and a half that he's been in college, I talk to him every day. I mean, things are getting done. We come up with game plans and stuff like that. And then he's in an ROTC program, so if he's going to be gone for a few days or whatnot, he communicates that with me and says, "Hey, Dad, I'm going to be offline for a couple of days. Don't worry, I got this," kind of a thing. And then we pick up when he gets back, and that's it's communication. And there's still things we're learning. I mean, he's 19, going to be 20.
Yeah.
Full of malt and vinegar. So it's like,
there you go. So before I forget, I really want to touch on this, and this isn't even a question that I wrote down, right? But you talked about, first off, you just talked about communication and how important it is between you and your son, right? And I think that that's huge when it comes to being a father, communication. I mean, just being a human being, period, but being a father, a husband, whatever you want to call it. But for the sake of fatherhood, I kind of want to ask you this question because I think it's very important, and it's been very important in my life as well. But when we first got on here, you also talked about how you suppressed a lot and you held a lot of things in. And I want to, for our audience, especially for our fathers out there, I want you to kind of explain the importance of not doing that as a father, and how it has kind of opened up things in your relationship between you and your son, that not suppressing things.
so great question. I'm glad you bring that up. So it's important to find an outlet, find somebody that you can talk to as a father, right? As a single father, I learned when he was very young, he doesn't understand. They don't understand everything, but he's understanding what I'm doing because of my actions. They follow everything, right? But if I'm not acting appropriately, and then he goes out and does it, and then I punish him for that, but he picked that up from me, well, that's not right for me to punish. Like, wait a minute. It really opened my eyes because I'd gotten angry once or something, and he got angry at school, and I forget, and I was just like, hey, not that I was a perfectionist, but it was like you kind of demand perfection. And then I realized, wait a minute, I have to talk to somebody. I went and I talked to an army buddy, or started going to like a group counseling kind of a thing, just to find a relief. And I didn't know what was wrong. I couldn't figure out why I was angry all the time, or this, that, or the other thing, whatever. All I did know was I didn't want my son to pick up on that and think that it was okay to act that way. So you can't suppress things. Find an outlet, whether it's, eventually it was going back to the gym was an outlet for me.
Mm.
Talking to friends, if I felt like something just doesn't feel right, well, let's talk to a buddy. People that you can trust, obviously, talk to them, and don't be afraid, because here's the thing: as males and as father figures, I think we sometimes, I'll say this because it happened to me, I let my pride get in the way, because you have to be the strong one at all the time. But it's okay. There's been a saying the last couple of years: it's okay not to be okay. And it really is. And the sooner you can recognize that as a man, the sooner you can recognize that as a father, you'll be surprised at how much closer your relationship with your children are, just by opening up and then showing them that it's okay to open up, because then you don't come across as so standoffish, which means they're going to be more apt to come to you when they need something to talk about.
Man, that's huge, because yeah, just you saying that last part, you want to be their outlet. Like, you want to be their outlet, but sometimes I think as fathers, sometimes we forget that even though we have been blessed with this responsibility to care for and lead this young man or young woman, we're also still going through life ourselves,
Yeah.
you know? So I think that's huge, and I hope that at the very least somebody takes that and applies it to their life. What were some of the major, and I don't know if you really spoke on it yet, but like, if you can just pick out a few of the major challenges that you experienced being a single father, you know what I mean, and kind of how you overcame them for anybody out there who may be going through something similar.
Uh, um, I would say being, one of the things you really have to overcome as a single parent is not having the other party involved in the child's.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the case with us. And yeah, I won't get into too details because I'm not going to be disrespectful or anything like that, but
Sure.
it just happened that way. And that's what life threw. And when that happens, it kind of starts a whole different chain of events of things that goes on in your own life. I had goals and stuff, that areas and directions that I thought I was going to travel, and it didn't work out that way. And looking back on it, I'm where I'm supposed to be. This is where God wants me to be, and you just have to have faith in that you're doing the right thing. But not having the other party involved is for your own reason, whether it's, hey, you're supposed to pick them up from school or work because I have to work late or whatever. That's one thing. The second part of that is when the other party is not involved, picking up the pieces from the child and how they feel about having the other person not being involved. And that was difficult because I've seen a lot of fathers and a lot of men want to downplay or talk ill will towards or about the other person. And that's where, as men, we really need to kind of step up our game. Is like, hey, it's not kid's fault that the other person's not involved. I got lucky. It's not often that you hear back then that a father would get sole custody of a
Right.
kid. States are very mom friendly.
Yep.
My situation was a little different. And so it was very unique at that time. Picking up those pieces and trying to explain to him, hey, this is what's going on. She still loves you, this, that, whatever. You're kind of sticking up for the other person, but you're not sticking up for the other person, because on the inside, you're just like, it's. I'll be honest with you, full disclosure, it was very easy for me because you didn't have somebody getting in the way of how you wanted to raise your kid. And that sounds very horrible to say, and that's certainly not my intent. I say that for your listeners because there's probably somebody out there that's going through something very similar.
Yep.
And when if it doesn't work out, that relationship doesn't work out, it becomes it's strictly business. You don't worry about that other person, you worry about your kids, and then you co-parent, if you're lucky enough to do that, make the decisions not for the other person or for you, make the decisions for the child.
Man, thank you for that. Thank you for that. I know somebody out there is gonna benefit from that in a major way. You talked about your experience in the military. I mean, what were some of the lessons that you got from the military that you applied to your role as a father, for all our military listeners out there?
The military was one of those. I grew up kind of like, the military gives you like confidence and some kind of a self-esteem boost, and that's what I needed at that time in my life. I was in for 9 years. Most of that was guard time. I did a deployment in 2003 to Iraq, and it was good. I missed the people. For the most part, the experiences were pretty good. I got to do a lot of cool things, different things, meet a lot of people, and that was the great part of it. You learn a lot. You learn about leadership, and you learn about taking care of others.
Mm.
That kind of ties in with fatherhood when you think about it, because when you well, let me say it like this. There's pros and cons to it. The pro side of it is because you're really looking out for your people, right? Your troops, everything like that. But when you get home, you got to remember that the family's not your troops. Those are
Yeah.
families. So sometimes you got to learn to kind of flip that light switch.
You're right.
But I honestly think that the military gave me a base foundation to be a father.
Mm.
Uh, and then it also taught me leadership skills and whatnot. And you can incorporate that. And I used a lot of that in raising my son, and as far as like the discipline, how to be disciplined, how to be a good person, etc., and holding yourself accountable to stuff. My sons were never late to anything. It's always 15 minutes early, kind of a thing. So if you're 15 minutes early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late.
Right.
Had that mentality, and it's worked. But it sounds silly for something that small, but that's how it starts.
Man, I'll tell you what, a lot of those principles that you get from the military play. I mean, even those little things, like you said, like being punctual is so, it plays a big role in your character. And so when the makeup of the character of that child, whether it be a son or a daughter, that is what makes them who they are in the society that they function in. Those, even though, like you said, even though those things are like little things, like when you add them all up, it like I said, it makes them who they are, and it builds that character, which is, like you said, that foundation, and that's what they use to function in society, and hopefully become successful. And so, man, that's great. I think that I definitely resonate with that a whole lot. One of the last things I kind of want to talk about, which I think I got from your bio, and so I was excited to ask you this question, or I guess it's more of like a, hey, can you talk about this? But I wanted you to kind of talk about mindset as it relates to fatherhood for fathers who don't feel like heroes.
My first question to that would be, why don't you feel like a hero, or what's your definition of a hero?
Hmm.
You know, anybody can be a hero for really any reason in through somebody else's eyes. If you're thinking that you need to be a hero or this or that, stop. That's just unnecessary pressure that you're putting on yourself. Focus on being a dad. Focus on being a father. How do you do that? Show up. Period. I said in the beginning that being a father is the greatest gift that any man who's blessed will ever have.
Mm-hmm.
It's also going to be the hardest job that you'll ever have. I don't care. I'll argue this until the cows come home. It's going to be the hardest job you ever have.
Mm-hmm.
You're never going to get things right. You're never, let me rephrase it. You're not always going to get things right.
Right.
You're not always going to get things wrong either, though. There's no right or wrong. I look at it like this. If you can, at the end of the day, if you can look in the mirror and see the reflection in the mirror and tell that man, I did the best I could today as a father, who gives a what anybody else thinks? It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks.
Yep.
There's days like, and listen, I promise you, listeners and you fathers out there, you're going to have days like that. I promise you. Promise you. My son's going to be 20 years old. There's not a week that goes by where I still feel that way. And I don't even have really any say. I've literally let off the reins and let him, because he's got to, you can't crowd your kid after they get to a certain age, because then you're crippling them. You're not letting them grow. You have to let your kids fail. And that's through all different ages. Let your kids fail so they can learn. That's how you learn. That's how you learned.
Yep.
So stop with this whole, I need to be a hero. Because chances are, whether you believe it or not, you already are a hero to your kids. But for those of you that don't believe me, I'll say this. You want to be a hero to your kid? Show up to your kid. Show up every day. Look your kids in the eye. Just randomly tell your kids that you love them. Spend 15 minutes before they go to bed at night. Ask them how their day went. More importantly, when your kids are talking, listen. Engage and listen to what they are saying. Because that's where you'll pick up a lot of things of what's really going on in their lives, whether it's at school or after school or whatever, or how they're feeling and whatnot. You listen to your kids. Most parents just be like, "Oh, you know what? Go play on this computer. Go do this, do that." You're not engaged. Be engaged in your child's life, because here's the thing: they're growing up. They're not always going to be at home, and someday when you wish they were around, it's going to be too late.
Man, thank you again. That's, that engagement piece that you talk about, like, that's for me, like, that what all I hear is, a lot of us, we work different jobs, whether you're military, law enforcement, whether you work as a barista. I mean, I don't know, barista at Starbucks, whatever the case may be, you have some responsibility at your job. And so, like, for some of us, we feel like we have to show up for work. We have to, we have to be there. We have to be a hero at our job, or whatever the case may be. I have to be. But I think one of the things, if I can leave us with anything that I've gotten from you, is that we are first called to be a father above any other thing that we're doing. When it comes to work, right? You're first called to be a father. You're first called to show up for your kids. You're first called to engage in their lives. And then all that other stuff comes after. So that's a big piece that I've gotten from you, and something that I will do my best to apply to my life every single day, as I decide every single day to be the best father that I can be, and look myself in the mirror and tell myself that, and be honest with myself that that's what I did. And so, brother, thank you again for your time. This was amazing. I'm excited to put this out there for people to listen to. I want to ask you, before I kind of wrap it up completely, do you have anything else that you wanted to add for anybody out there?
I just thank you for the opportunity, and I'm here to help. I mean, I feel like my purpose now in life, that my son is kind of doing his own thing, becoming a young man himself, is to help others get to where they want to go, and whether it's through fatherhood or business or whatnot. So I'll just throw my tags out there real quick. You can find me on social media at Mr. Adam Bird. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Just send me a message there. Or if you want to follow any of the companies, it's heroesmediagroup.com or hmgbeverage.com or jbautoclothiers.com. So yeah, I got a lot of experience in a lot of different things, but again, I feel like my purpose now is to help others get to where they want to go. So, and I, again, thank you for this opportunity today.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, again, thank you for being on. Those of you who, if you missed any of the social media tags and the website, it'll all be in the description of this video. So make sure you go check out his page, check out the website, and just go support what he's doing, because it's really changing lives and changing the world. So Adam, again, thank you to everybody listening. As always, we thank you for being here.